Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 23-year-old competitive boulderer from Canada, currently living in Montreal. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So today we're going to be climbing at BLOC SHOP, the original location, Chabanel. And the idea with BLOC SHOP today was that they had a little mini competition. And usually when they have these, even just local events, the setters sort of go on try-hard mode a little bit and put up even better boulders than usual. And I'd heard that there were a couple good slab boulders in particular that I definitely wanted to get on. And the theme with the last episode was continuing a little bit more in today's day of training. Throughout both of the sessions, I was really hyper-analyzing myself and really asking myself just how much I thought I was World Cup ready, or at least, can I be World Cup ready in a couple months? For those who missed the last episode, long story short, there's a very, very, very good chance that I'll be attending the Prague World Cup at the end of September. And yeah, that's like a couple months away at this point. And it's been like almost maybe like 4 years or something since I've been to a World Cup. And so I feel like I've leveled up a lot as a climber and I want to test myself, but I still just don't quite know if I'm at that level yet. So throughout this whole day of training, especially on the slabs later on, I'm really analyzing myself. And I think I was doing it a little bit less unhealthy than the low crux day. I think the low crux day, I was really psyching myself out. But today, I was thinking about it in a bit of a better way. And also, I'll just mention now, at the end of this video, we're going to do a program breakdown like I was talking about in the last episode. Like I've written a whole new program to train for this Prague World Cup, since there's like such a good chance that I'll be going, and I want to prepare for it right. So I'll give more of an explanation about the program and about basically the criteria that needs to be met for me to actually attend this Prague World Cup. So stay tuned for the end of the episode if you're interested in hearing about that. But anyway, let's tune into the session and talk about this boulder that I'm trying right now. This one is using some of my probably all-time favorite holds. I think these holds are always just so visually striking, especially when you have a boulder that's set with like a lot of them. And so I really like climbing on these holds, and they're cool. They have these really interesting slopey edges throughout the surface that have like bits, like patches of the edge that are a bit more positive, but for the most part, they're quite slopey and bad. And this boulder ends up having some really cool moves. So check out this first move. I'm doing a toe hook here with my right foot, and I'm sort of toe hooking a pretty small edge. And actually that first move, like that toe hook, was quite interesting because when I was first trying it, I was really struggling to get good tension on that toe hook. And actually the only way that I'm able to make that toe hook stick was by using a previous tip of the day, which is what I guess we can just call a drop knee toe hook. So I almost have to put my right toe hook on that undercling hold and drop my knees to the right in order to shorten like the lever basically and get more tension off that toe hook. So it was just a cool little intricate move at the start there. And then this move that I'm falling on a bunch is obviously the crux. These are all ground attempts that I'm falling on this move here. And I can't decide if I like the back flag beta more or this beta here, where we do a big reach up and then try to jump for the better part of the sloper. But I end up sort of settling on the back flag beta, and it's less my style for sure. It's a bit more body position based and tension based, because ideally I would keep the right foot, but definitely body tension is a weakness of mine as a climber. I feel like it's a very outdoorsy style skill, and I don't go outdoors a lot, which is probably why it's not my strength. But yeah, before we continue talking about this boulder, let's jump into today's into today's tip of the day, because this boulder features a very, very important one. So for today's tip of the day, we're going to be talking about efficiency in climbing, and basically the idea of connecting as many moves together so we optimize for the amount of energy we're actually spending on a boulder. And this technique or idea is sort of one of my most bread and butter fundamental climbing techniques, or like sort of ways that I climb. And this really shapes me as a climber. And I'm very conscious about this all the time in training and competing and in general. And honestly, I feel like I am a pretty strong climber, but especially when it comes to the upper end of the men's field in the World Cup or even the North American Cups, like I'm nowhere near as strong as a lot of the guys. And so in a way, I actually find the weakest way to climb boulders a lot of the time. And this is a great example of not a way that we're necessarily climbing boulders in a weak way by being efficient, but basically climbing a boulder that maybe we really don't have a great level of fitness to actually send. But by optimizing our efficiency and connecting as many moves together, we're able to send a boulder that is like maybe should be a bit too pumpy for us if we're not conscious of really optimizing in this way. So basically, if I was to just kind of chilly pull on this boulder and not really think about the moves I'm doing and just try and climb my way up it, I would never send it because my power endurance isn't quite that good. So I need to optimize every little bit I can in order to actually execute this boulder because I don't necessarily have the stamina for it. So basically the idea is pretty simple and we're just trying to connect moves together. So the biggest example of this is when I jump up for this second slopey hold, like the right hand, and you'll notice I have my backswing and then I immediately swing my foot right to the foot chip. Whereas the lazy way of doing this move would be, okay, we jump up to the sloper, we kind of control our swing, maybe we adjust our hand while we're hanging, and then we look over to the foot and swing the foot over. But that obviously wastes so much energy. We get a little bit of extra grease in our hand. We're just tiring out our arm. Whereas thinking a couple moves ahead and just adding that extra layer of precision by immediately hitting the hold, taking the backswing, and using the backswing to go all the way to the foothold, we are optimizing physically in a lot of ways. Like obviously we're saving a lot of energy on our right arm and our grip strength. But what we're doing is we're making it a little harder mentally for us, right? There is an element of thinking a couple steps ahead while you're actually climbing and the precision to hit the foot immediately. So it's making it harder for us mentally. But what we're saying is, okay, I think I'm smart enough to do this, like to optimize in all these ways, and I'm just not strong enough to climb the boulder. So I'm going to use my smarts to my advantage and basically outwit the boulder because I'm not necessarily fit enough to climb through all these moves very casually. So yeah, this backswing into the foothold is a great example of this. An even more subtle example is when we come into this left-hand crimp. When I hit the crimp and I take the backswing off of the crimp, you'll notice I immediately go out for the next right-hand sloper. So that's another little example of this efficiency we're talking about and connecting moves. And I think there's even another little one at the beginning when I come into the first left-hand crimp. I kind of hit the crimp, and then as soon as the position is controlled, I immediately jump up. And it's just to minimize the amount of time I'm doing like useless things on the wall. Basically, a way we could summarize this idea is to make every second of being on the boulder count towards actually moving you towards the top and minimize the amount of time that you're just hanging around doing nothing. And then even another little example is on the last move. I was kind of pumping out on that second last hold, so I immediately pulled through to the finish. So yeah, this is also a reason why your second attempt on any given boulder can be a lot better than your first, because you have a bit more muscle memory and you're able to connect more moves rather than pause between them. So yeah, I'm always very conscious of this idea in training, and it's something that's very easy to put in practice as well during your training sessions. Just try to do it as much as you can, because the more moves you can connect together and the more efficient you can be, like just overall in all of your climbing, I think that this can level up anybody, and definitely even more slower paced climbers can benefit from this, implementing just efficient climbing and connecting moves together. So definitely be conscious of it during your own training. So yeah, let's pay attention to this Sengo and watch just how many moves I try to connect together. So you see here, I hit this left crimp, and then very shortly I'm up to this next hold, and then immediately I use the backswing to kick the foot out to the right, And then once I control the left-hand crimp, I immediately go to the next sloper. And also the idea is with connecting moves like this, once you've sort of made it through the crux move, like I finally stuck the second last hold, you're in like sort of more precarious territory, right? I haven't actually like done the crux sequence and the move after it. So once you make it through the meat of the boulder and you stick the crux, that's when you can afford to slow down. Because if you try to rush too fast through uncharted territory, such as the crux of the boulder, then there's more room to slip around and make mistakes. So when you're trying to implement efficient climbing and connecting moves together, definitely try to stick to moves you've already done before or just the easier moves of a boulder. If you're trying to rush through the crux, that's definitely when you can get into trouble. So for that last boulder, I connected a lot of moves at the beginning, and then once I had stuck the crux move, I went into like cautious mode. And I knew that I had, well, and like the other idea with the efficient climbing is basically you want to give yourself, you want to allow yourself the opportunity to have a lot of energy so that you can take your time with like the crux sequence of a boulder. That's another big benefit. If you waste too much energy at the beginning, then you're too tired to kind of like test out moves at the crux or find a good position because you wasted it all at the beginning. So if you can bank more energy by cruising through the moves you've already done, that's going to really, really help you out with the crux, especially at the end of a long boulder like that. And then, yeah, we're moving into a boulder here that was definitely a very high priority boulder. This one looks super, super good. And this is also a boulder where I definitely was doing sort of what I was talking about earlier and really analyzing my ability and trying to see if it was World Cup level. And I say this because this boulder here, I think could be copy and paste a World Cup qualifying boulder for the men. And I'm sure that can be shocking to a lot of people, actually. I find a lot of newer climbers have the idea that World Cup boulders are all just like crazy, crazy hard and you wouldn't find them in a gym. But it's actually not the case, especially in the qualifying rounds of the World Cup. Oftentimes they're like the level of a boulder you can see in a gym like this. And the hard part is obviously doing it in 5 minutes under the pressure and like solving the boulder. But yeah, like this boulder would be very difficult to solve in a high pressure situation where you only have 5 minutes. And I wasn't able to do it in 5 minutes whatsoever today. But yeah, this boulder definitely could be a copy and paste men's World Cup qualifying boulder. And that's why I was like I've done enough World Cups way back in the day that I can tell when a boulder is like a World Cup boulder. And so I could tell with this one, and that's why I was really hyper analyzing myself and maybe psyching myself out a little bit for the reason that I wasn't solving this one really fast. And so now I'm thinking to myself, can I actually do this when I go to the World Cup? Obviously with more preparation and intent. The idea is hopefully, yes, I can, but it is always nerve-wracking when I'm trying to assess my ability in training on a World Cup boulder like this. And yeah, this boulder is like really well set. Shout out to the BLOC SHOP setters for this one. I really enjoyed this slab. So the crux of this boulder is bringing up the right foot for that last move there. And it's because, so let's just break down the boulder here on this attempt. So this crimp is pretty good, and I'm able to reach my right foot all the way out to this really good foothold. And then the standover move isn't too bad, but basically this right hand is super slopey, and this left foot is like, has a dual text ring around it and is also bad. So trusting the feet for the end there is really tricky. And there was like quite a big learning curve to figuring out a nice slow way to bring up that right foot. And like that's what makes a World Cup boulder hard to do in 5 minutes, is they're often so technical, and there's like, usually in theory there's a learning curve, but the idea is that you need to solve that learning curve and expedite the process of learning how to do a boulder all the way and compress it into 5 minutes, whereas that boulder probably took me like 15-20 minutes to do. But yeah, that one was a really good one, and I was glad that I came to BLOC SHOP to try that. And here's another good example of a really good slab boulder as well. This one had a cool creative sequence, but I would say this one definitely wasn't World Cup difficulty. This one was definitely like a step below. Maybe like North American Cup level or Canadian national level qualifier boulder, something like this, but had a really cool creative sequence. And I think I solved maybe what was the intended sequence on my first go, so I was pretty proud of that. And then yeah, the way this day of training at BLOC SHOP was shaping up was that the idea was to finish off a good amount of boulders and basically try and finish off everything and save the hardest of this comp set for session 2. So you can see that this boulder has like a number on it. It's number 24, and that's because it was part of the mini competition event sort of thing that BLOC SHOP had recently. And so there are 30 boulders for this comp set, and number 30 looked really, really hard. So I knew it was going to take as much dedication as possible. So I wanted to try and finish off all of the boulders I hadn't tried yet in the gym and try and send everything so that I could spend a whole session working number 30. And that ends up happening. And I was also quite relieved to be able to send the red one from earlier with the big pretty holds. And like that one was definitely getting down to the wire. I was getting really, really tired from trying that one a lot, but I really wanted to send that boulder so that I could not have to try it again in the second session and just focus on number 30. And so this green slab ends up being the last one standing in my way of accomplishing this goal and setting myself up for a nice projecting session on number 30 later in the day. And I'm a little bit over time at this point in my normal hour-long session because I'm really intent on just having a nice dedicated projecting session on one boulder for the next one. So yeah, this slab was also quite nice. It took me a little bit to figure out this start sequence. I would imagine I figured out the sequence by design, and it's like a more dynamic stand up into this undercling. I couldn't really find a good way to like go slowly up into the undercling, and a fast method worked quite well. And then this last move is a cool stand up into the crimp move, very similar to the last move of the other slab from earlier, where we had to stand up right hand to that crimp. And I was actually playing around with an idea on these two boulders and a bit of a trend that I've noticed recently. Also, that was Loy poking his head in front of the camera. And that's the idea of like leading with the hand that your foot is like the higher foot in a stand-up move on a slab like that. I like to lead with the same hand. This could be a future tip of the day because it's a bit of a trend I'm noticing recently and an idea that isn't quite fully formulated yet, but I'll probably talk more about it in the future because it's something I've been paying attention to. But for now, let's tune into session 2. We're trying number 30, the super hard block, and this guy working it with me, his name is Chris, and he's one of the setters at Roseblock, and he's super strong. And I bumped into him today at BLOC SHOP, and I got to climb with him a little bit, which was fun. And then Loy is also here, and then the Strong Rage team kids are also here. We have Toma, Tristan, and Teo. And so we'll see everybody put a few rips on this boulder. But anyway, let's tune into this attempt. I finally stick the crux first move for the first time, and I wasn't like really ready to try the ending of this boulder. I hadn't tried the ending sequence at all yet, and I just wasn't in tryhard mode. So I end up like really trying hard here in uncharted territory. I was like power screaming, really fighting, and that last move is quite hard. Probably the second hardest move of the climb. The left hand crimp is pretty small, and the finish hold is a pretty good hold, but basically has like a ring of dual techs around it. So the place where you need a hit is just a patch of texture that's actually quite precise. So it's a good hold if you hit it perfectly, but it's a lot to ask to hit it perfect. And yeah, this boulder is super, super fire. I really enjoyed trying this thing. Here you got Toma putting an attempt on it. It was a pretty good attempt. I think that was his first one. But yeah, the first move is a very Zach style move as well. It actually is probably more technical than it is powerful. And here you can see I'm getting got by the finish again. But yeah, what I mean by the first move being very technical is it's actually all in how you flop your momentum in order to catch the left hand. And you can't just do like an unthought out pull up to the left hand, or you'll just get ripped off by your momentum. You can see here Chris is putting an attempt on the end here. And actually I was watching him do this try, and notice how he really locks off way more than I was for that last move. And watching him do that made me want to try it if I make it up there again. And so that was a key piece of beta. And a nice perk of climbing with these strong guys that I don't often get in my training. Because I usually train alone, I often miss out on a lot of beta or techniques because I don't get to watch people all the time. So that's always a benefit of training with people. But yeah, you saw Teo put an attempt on and Tristan put an attempt on. And I mentioned this in the last video these guys were in. They've only been climbing for a year and a half. So those were very impressive attempts, I think. But anyway, I've dropped the finish of this boulder twice now and just tried this boulder a lot in general. So we're in crunch time now with this thing before I power out. And as soon as I make it through the sequence here, I say, okay, this is the make or break moment. After this try, I'm gonna be too tired and there will be no chance, so I gotta fight. And I thought that I locked off a little bit more to get the finish like Chris did, but it actually didn't really look like it when I watched the video back. I still kind of just fired up for the finish. But that time I hit the hold perfectly, and it was pretty good when you hit it perfect. And I was able to get a cool scent of that one. And that one had a black tag on it. While the boulders don't have grades yet, because they're comp sets, they still, like the red tags, for example, are V8 or 9, and the black tags are usually 10 or 11. But I think number 30 could have very easily gone at white tag, which is the V12 13, because that one felt really, really hard, especially even compared to some of the other white tags in the gym. So yeah, maybe white tag for number 30, but I was very, very satisfied to get a scent of that one. And I tried so hard, especially with all the peer pressure on that purple thing, that it just zapped me super hard. And I was only able to try a couple more boulders in the session. This green one, for example, will end up being the last boulder of the session. And yeah, definitely happy I came out to BLOC SHOP to get on the comp sets. The setters seems like they tried extra hard, and especially the slabs were really valuable. We had to like some copy and paste World Cup boulders, in my opinion, for today's training. But anyway, let's jump into the program review that I was talking about at the beginning of the video and break down our training program that we're going to start in order to prepare for the World Cup coming up. So first, before we jump into the program breakdown, let's just kind of quickly talk about the criteria and what it's going to take for me to actually make it to the Prague World Cup. Because basically, it's not 100% guarantee right now, but it seems very, very likely. So let me sort of explain the process. Right now, what we're looking at here is the Canadian ranking for just like men's bouldering. So basically this ranking here is what determines who gets to go to the World Cups. So the IFSC says, hey, every World Cup team, you get to send 2 athletes to our World Cups, and your country gets to determine its own system in order to select them. And so basically we have our system where we have a bunch of different competitions, as you can see here. We get points from these events, and then we get put into a ranking, and the top people in the ranking get to go. So basically how it works is the top 6 people are eligible for the World Cup, and they go down the list of 6, and someone can say, no, I don't want to go to that World Cup, for example, and then they'll take the next person. So like, let's look at this, for example, here. If Oscar here says no, then, and Sean and Matt say yes, then they get to go to the World Cup. So they take the highest 2 people from the top 6. So basically, the reason that I am probably going to be going to this Prague World Cup is because Oscar Bodrand, I texted him and he said he's not going to attend this year. I know Guy, I also texted, and he said he's done for the season. He wants to rest and he's not going to go to the World Cup. I know Matt Rodriguez is itching to go to his first World Cup, and I'm really psyched for him. He's going to be going to Prague, so that'll be sick. And then McCall, the word on the street is he's just not doing this World Cup season. So this is kind of the mystery. In theory, he could go, and it'll be Matt and Sean. But yeah, he hasn't done any World Cups this year, and it's looking unlikely. So that's kind of the word on the street. So basically what that means is these three people, Oscar, Sean, and Guy, are going to turn down their invite. Matt's going to take his, and I will be the second spot. So that's like where I'm at right now. It's looking quite likely. And basically I'll know for sure so August 15th is when the first invites go out, and then people will say yes or no. And then the second round of invites will come out like a few days later. So around August 15, 16, 17, 18, I might get like confirmation of my attendance going to the Prague World Cup. So yeah, that's basically what it's going to take to get me there. And yeah, it'd be pretty exciting. I haven't done a World Cup in a while, and I'm definitely interested to test like my new climbing skills. I was sort of talking about this in the last episode, but I've definitely made a lot of gains in recent years. And while I'm not itching to get back to the World Cup, I've definitely found different avenues of climbing that make me happy, and I don't need to be chasing the World Cups anymore these days. It would still be fun to test my skills on the World Cup level. And so, yeah, it would be cool to go do it, especially since I'm coming off such a good season. But anyway, have a look at this. So this is the program I wrote in order to prepare for this event. And while it's not necessarily a guarantee that I'm even going to the event, especially at this moment in time when I wrote this, I may as well train for it. And if it turns out that, okay, Sean is going to go, then, you know, I'll only have done like about a month or so of training, and it'll just have been fun. And it's always fun to document training, so it wouldn't be a waste of time anyway. And if I am going to the World Cup and I do get picked, I need to start training now. Like, I want to do it right if I'm going to go. So like, I found out a few days ago that this is potentially happening. And so I'm like, okay, I'm rewriting my program now. We need to do this right. I want to be prepared and give it a real shot. So I wrote out this whole program dedicated to the Prague World Cup at the end of September. And honestly, the Korea World Cup is happening like a couple weeks later. And this same logic pretty much applies. Like, I could go to Korea, but I have no idea if Oscar wants to go to this one, for example. I know Guy will, but I texted Oscar and he said he wasn't going to go to Prague. I don't know if he's going to go to Korea or not, though. But that's not too important. Like, I can train for this, and if I do get an invite for Korea, I'm already peaked, right? So it's not a big deal. And then also here, check this little sneak peek out. I couldn't get that sentence out of my mouth. Regardless of whether I'm competing here in Korea, Maddie is, and I'm going to go spectate and watch her. And since Japan is on the same time zone as Korea, we're going to spend about a week and a half training in Japan while we get on the time zone for Korea. And obviously that's going to be epic. We're probably just going to spend all of our time at B-Pump. So you can look forward to some Richardson's climbing B-Pump content. But anyway, I'm just going to do like a broad, like a very quick program breakdown, because I think we'll break down the actual training in whatever the next episode of COMPCLIMB is when we actually start it. But yeah, basically there's like 4 phases. We're 2 months out away from Prague at this point. So this is like, I spent a long time writing this program. This is very dedicated, deliberate training. In this first phase, it's 2 weeks. We're going to be doing higher volume. You can see our workout is mega. It's killer. I need to get fit again. I need to get back in shape. I haven't been doing my workout in a while after the comp season because it hasn't been necessary. So yeah, I need to get like my triceps back, my legs back, just become really fit overall. So I'm ready to tackle whatever kind of World Cup boulders thrown at me. And then I also have been not consistent about campusing. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 campus sessions and really get some power built. Like, it's been a while since I've done such an extended period of campus work. And so that's going to be really good, I think. And then in phase 2, the training will switch up a bit. We'll cut down some volume of our workout as we're slowly tapering. and we'll do some mock comp training, some tactics, we'll practice, we'll do some comp simulations. That's very important, especially when we're going into a World Cup, where tactics are just so important. And then I plan my rest week for the beginning of September here. And then this is all very rough. This might change around a lot in terms of what countries we're in, but it would be cool to go to Germany during this rest week. And then because Germany is kind of like our second home at this point, it would be cool to do some training in Germany and visit Europe for like a few weeks out before the Prague World Cup to really get on the time zone and not be jet lagged whatsoever when it comes to the World Cup, because it's obviously been so long since I've been here and I really want to do this right. And I want to make the most of the one shot I'm basically being given right now, because when it comes to next season, I will still be in 5th and the Olympics will be over as well, and more people will focus on the World Cups, and it might be harder for me to actually get to one. So yeah, let's make the most of this opportunity if it does indeed happen. So we're going to go to Europe early, do some training, visit Germany. I think that would just be cool. Ever since we've left Germany, I've been itching to just go back and visit and see everyone again. We love Germany. So the idea is to do a couple weeks of training, probably in Frankfurt, probably train at Studio Block, Boulder House, all our old classic gyms. That would be awesome. And then make our way over to the Czech Republic a few days before the World Cup. And then after Prague, we do a week and a half in Japan, and then Korea World Cup. So that is basically the gist of what is coming up next. I'm now going from thinking that my season is over and we're in some downtime and some chill time, and I can just mess around basically. And then all of a sudden now, okay, no, it's actually like the most important part of your season is starting now. And I'm like, what? So also, it's not listed here, but at this point in time, when I'm recording this, after this session, tomorrow we're going to go do some training with Sabrina. No, that's the day after tomorrow. Basically, I have 2 more days of training right now, and then I'm going to take a 6-day rest week, and then I'm going to start this program. So that's where I'm at. I'm going to take a bit of rest before I start this massive program, because it is a lot, as you can see. Like, this training is going to be exhausting, mentally and physically. So I need like a nice fat rest week before I start it, fuel up, and then I can't wait to tackle this thing. So anyway, I hope you're as motivated as I am. I think this is going to be a pretty cool story arc for the channel, Train for a World Cup. Hopefully it does indeed happen and I do get an invite. Otherwise, this hype is all for nothing. But yeah, we'll see. You kind of know the gist of how I will get selected for this thing or not. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Insert gadget video show here.